My side. Today I would like to tell you something about simulations methods. So they represent something from optical modeling or experimental methods. Today I would like to share something about simulations methods for heat and fluid flow with short overview and applications. So first I will start with the concept or content of the presentation. I will give you a short introduction about simulations, synergy of theory, experiment, and simulations. Then I will move to tell you something about phenomenon of turbulence. Then I will show you several examples or different applications for these simulations methods for heat and fluid flow, and finally some general message. If you have any questions, I'm always available via LinkedIn, so don't hesitate to contact me and ask. I hope I can help you. First introduction, I think in the context of scientific research, two primary modes are theory and experiment, and in recent decades the simulations is included as third mode. How is important simulations? We can see best from this document from 2006, Simulation-Based Engineering Science. This is blue ribbon panel document. I think it means something like strategical document for US government. And from the content, we can see that the simulations will take huge place in different applications like medicine or biomedical, predictive homeland security, material science, energy and the environment, and industrial and defense applications. So I will focusing more on this energy and environment and industrial applications. How to describe actually this heat and fluid flows with the simulations methods, or actually what we're using, or what is the most popular tool is CFD. CFD can be contract for difference or computational fluid dynamics. In my case, this is computational fluid dynamics. Contract for difference also exists. I think it's something correlated with stock exchange or something like this. What is actually CFD? CFD is branch of fluid mechanics, where for analyzing heat and fluid flows are using numerical methods and computers. So from this simple definition, we can see it's multidisciplinary tool and very complex tool. We have the combination of fluid mechanics or physics, numerical methods. This is a branch of the mathematics, and computers, software and hardware. For example, HPC, high performance computing. So, as I said, this is very complex tool, but also very powerful tool. So, but we need to use how to use it properly. For example, this is nice explanation or example how powerful is actually CFD tool. This is one Boeing aircraft, and for optimizing and developing a lot of components, we have been used really a lot of CFD. We have a lot of CFD contributions in this area. So, as I said, CFD is branch of fluid mechanics. A lot of problems or issues in fluid mechanics have been solved a long time ago, but one problem or topic is still open, or actually still enigma. This is phenomenon of turbulence. How is actually important turbulence? Some great minds like Werner Heisenberg and Richard Feynman were occupied with this problem or phenomenon of turbulence. Also, Leonardo da Vinci in 16th century studied water turbulence. Vincent van Gogh also turbulence served as inspiration for his work. But how to describe actually these turbulent flows or generally fluid motion? The basic equation is actually the Navier-Stokes equation. So this is partial differential equation. We can see that we have several terms. For example, on the right side we have this viscous term, which is linear term and friend of all PhD students and CFD developers. On left side, another side, we have these convective terms. This is non-linear term and most important source of turbulence and enemy of CFD developers and engineers. To describe turbulent motions or turbulent flows in CFD, we have different approaches. So, for example, we have this Reynolds average Navier-Stokes approach, large eddy simulations approach, and direct numerical simulation approach. Essence of all these approaches actually how to describe this, spectrum or energy or turbulence spectrum. For example, in RANS modeling, the whole energy spectrum, turbulence spectrum is modeled. Then in LES, minimum 80% of this spectrum is resolved and maximum 20% remodeling. And DNS approach, the full energy spectrum is resolved. So from these approaches, the most accurate or best approach is actually DNS approach, but unfortunately we have limitations with this approach. Actually, we can only use for simplified geometry or generic or actually fundamental cases or examples, and because the reason lies in the fact that we have still limitations with the HPC or computer's power. Now I will make small digression, or actually, no, first RANS modeling. I think this is the most widely used approach, especially for industrial flows. And each of these approaches has some pros and cons or advantages, disadvantages. For example, there are a large number of turbulent models. And I think up to date, I read somewhere we have about 100 different RANS turbulence models. But what is actually disadvantages of this approach? As I said already, the whole spectrum is modeled, and the second thing is actually that we still don't have universal turbulence model. So this is something like holy grail for scientists and developers in this area. So I mean with this universal turbulent models that we can use this model for each type of flow, each geometry, each applications. Also, a wide variety of LES models exist. The most popular two is Magorinsky, and I think this is the first LES model, and Germano-dynamic. In the last 2 decades, are very popular hybrid RANS LES approach. So this is combination of RANS and LES approach. For example, here is interesting to mention about this Spallard-Almaraz and this detached eddy or DES model. Both are developed by same authors or same engineer, Philip Spallard, and both are mainly developed for application in aircraft application. Now I will make small digression. I think Los Alamos Lab, Imperial College London, Stanford University, École Centrale Paris are perhaps the most prominent schools in the field of fluid mechanics in the last 50 years, or turbulence modeling generally. I think everyone here heard, for example, for Sarajevo School of Pop Rock Music, but have you heard about the Sarajevo School of Fluid Mechanics or Sarajevo School of Turbulence? The 2 famous members or representatives of these schools are Professor Kemal Hanjalić, our most cited scientist, who is today with us here, and Professor Milovan Perić, the co-author of the most famous or most popular, widely used book in the area of the CFD. Here is also other prominent members of this school. I think this is maybe 50% of these members. But what is important to mention here is actually that all these members, or these people, they are originated from Faculty of Mechanical Engineering in Sarajevo, more precisely from Energy Department, and they are today professors, lead chief development engineers scattered around the world. Here is also some references or most cited papers from the people from this school, and factographically here is interesting. The first papers come from 1962 from Professor Muhammad Rijanović. I think in this period he was on the PhD students in Iowa University, USA. Now I will move to some example or show you some applications. First application is actually winter in Sarajevo. I think everyone knows about these problems with the air pollution in Sarajevo in winter period. And actually this problem was the topic of my master thesis under supervision of Professor Hanjalić in the collaboration with TU Delft. And So this is computational simulation model. Domain looks like this. This is Sarajevo Valley with the very large domain, for example, 80 kilometers length, height 3 kilometers. And I mean, having the simulations, what I do actually in this project is actually this weak and strong stratification. So this means actually the height of the inversion layer in the Sarajevo Valley, for example, typically or realistic is this scenario with the stratification of 200 meters. Then this computational domain is divided in several zones, for example, and for each of these zones I define different temperature variation and pollutant emissions. And also important to mention is here that all simulations have been done with this RANS approach, turbulence approach. Here is, for example, some results: velocity vector projection and temperature contours for different cross-section or locations in Sarajevo. In middle you can see the temperature diagram or temperature profiles obtained from experimental measurements, and on the right side is the temperature profiles obtained from simulations. For example, for 3 characteristic locations: town hall, mechanical faculty, and airport locations. It's also interesting these thermal plums for 2 characteristic time, 2 p.m. and temperature minimum at 2 a.m. And on the right side is also one interesting figure. This is done by my colleague also for his master thesis from Alija Bevernijev. And this is, for example, streamlines and realistic representation of pollution. And what he included in these simulations, actually he included also buildings, and he simulated only one segment of the Sarajevo Valley. I think this is the location of Marienpor. On the end, I would like to show you, for example, one animations. This is the simulations, diurnal evolution of flow and pollutant transport in Sarajevo Valley for 2-day cycle. So 48 hours, and we can see here what is actually possible to obtain with the simulations, distribution of the fog or pollutants in the Sarajevo Valley for 2-day cycle, day-night cycle. Now I will move to my second application. This is actually a topic from my PhD research on University of Erlangen. Large eddy simulations of fuel injection at subcritical and supercritical conditions, again with the CFD approach, but different application. This is actually IC engine application, where I made really comprehensive analysis of fuel injections for example, for different ambient conditions in the chamber or engine, different inflow conditions, different, for example, equation of state. And actually, it's, how I said, it's again CFD, but now with different approach for describing turbulent flows. Now I used actually large eddy simulations approach. Here is also an interesting animation of the jet propagation in the chamber, and I compare this with available measurement, experimental measurement data from Sandia National Laboratory. And I forgot to mention, actually, this project was actually correlated with the Euro 7 standard for diesel engine, heavy-duty diesel engine. Next is also one example from the validation of experimental measurement. Here is experimental setup from injection and chamber setup from Erlangen University. From this figure we can see that it's really complex system, really complex setup, but most important is very expensive setup. And from another side is my computational setup, so it replicates this actually chamber, and this is actually what I validated then and compared with the experimental data. For example, on left figure we have implemented different equation of state and compared them with the available measurement data. But most important thing is this right figures, temperature profiles of fuel heating. For example, this is very representative, really representative, because, for example, these temperature profiles we can only obtain with the simulations methods or this CFD method. Unfortunately, we still don't have available experimental techniques which can measure such temperature profiles of fuel heating or actually of this jet. Now, I will also show you one interesting example. This is also very popular topic in Bosnia, cool combustion in thermal power plant in Kakanj. And actually, this is also top PhD topic from my ex-teaching assistant, Adnan Jukum, for his PhD research. And here you can see the, for example, realistic boiler geometry in the thermal power plant. Here is also this computational or numerical mesh, which is really important to conduct simulations or perform simulations. And here is also one results or actually CO content on the walls in on these boilers actually. And this is also representative because figure like this we cannot obtain with the experimental techniques or experimental measurement. My last application is actually thermal management. This correlated with my current job in R&D industry, actually in automotive branch for electrical car. And here is one system of the Audi Q6 actually e-tron system for electrical car. Here depicted part is actually inverter, or what we call the brain of an electric car. Why is important? Actually, we can see it's very complex system or very complex part, and it's important because in this inverter we have this power module, and this is, for example, one power module.